This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. Welcome, we're continuing in Mishna Berura, Daf HaShavua. We're up to Siman Chav Zayin Seif Yud. Siman Chav Zayin Seif Yud. Tzarech sheyeh hakesher me'achorei harosh lamala ba'oiref. The knot of the tefillin sharosh in the back has to be above in the nape. Tzarech lechavein haketzitza she'tehei be'emtza kedei she'tehei k'neged bein ha'inayim. You need to position the bias that it should be in the middle, so it should be opposite the eyes. V'gam hakesher yeh be'emtza ha'iref, and that the knot be in middle of the nape. V'lo yiteh lekan or lekan, it should not be inclined not this way or that way. But tzarech sheyeh hamakim shebakesher shenira ke'in dalid litzad chutz. The place of the kesher should be apparent like a dalid toward the outside. Likewise, the kesher of the arm, you have to be careful that it does not turn around. Okay, so a few things to bear in mind. The knot has to be in the nape, it has to be in the middle, it has to look like a dalet. Says in Mishna Berura Katan Lamed Hey, Ba'oiref Shehu Seif Hagol Goylas. The oiref is the end of the skull. So the skull you could feel on the top back of your head, it sort of is rounded and protruding. The end of that is the oiref. So it has to be ba'oiref, which is the end of the skull. V'hu neged apanim, which is opposite the face. Many people have it very low down. They think, okay, as long as it's on the hairline. They think that just like the bias has to be at the beginning of the hairline on the top, the knot has to be right after the end of the hairline on the bottom. No, not in Judaism. That might be a different religion. But the tefillin of Jews has to be by the skull, by the top of the head. I would say most tefillin are not. Okay, so the first thing you need to do, don't wait till tomorrow. After the shiur, go put on your tefillin sharosh and make sure that the back of the knot is by the head. It's sort of opposite the beinei necha. We'll see in a minute. Okay, shu neged apanim. V'loi kol kach lamata k'neged hagar. It's not so low that it's opposite the throat. V'tov she'emunach ikar hakesher lamala min haguma. Okay, so at the end of the skull in the back, there's a little bit of a notch, right? You could sort of feel an indentation. Most of the knot should be above the indentation on the skull. Most tefillin are not. I'm just letting you know, most tefillin are not. So, if you want to be among the select few that put their tefillin on in the correct place, pay attention to this. Ikar hakesher needs to be above the notch. Meaning, 60% of the kesher needs to be above the knot. Okay, you're yotzei the tefillin if the tefillin is lower, but you have to make sure that even a little bit of the knot cannot be lower than the hairline. The hair, the shamhu mafrekes hatzavar, that is the mafrekes. That is the neck. In other words, that is the part of the neck which is flexible, as opposed to the oiref, which is the nape, which is the base of the skull. By the way, he brings over here somebody who has hair on his neck continuing down the nape. The Prima Gadim says this is not considered the oiref. But so similar to what we said with the hairline on the front. Therefore, you want to make sure that the strap that is around the circumference of the head is precise and confined. And you don't want the circumference of the strap to be bigger than the circumference of the head. You want it to fit snug. If you say, yeah, my tonsure is very tight, good. Now you have a fighting chance of that it's in the right place. But if it's, loosey-goosey, then it's not going to work. Now, if the circumference of the Ritzua is going to be bigger than the circumference of the head, you're going to have two problems. The number one, the tzrichim hiduk mamish. First thing is, you need to really fasten it. You need to tie it as a sign. V'hahiduk hi hakshira. The fastening is the tightening. So it means as follows. It says you should tie tefillin on your arm. So when it comes to the arm, we understand what... Do you need to make a bracha while you're checking? What are you checking? I don't understand. What are you checking? Oh, you mean you're putting it on? You mean you're taking me seriously and you're going to put on your tefillin sharash? No, you don't have to put on a... No, you're not mechavin to be kind in the mitzvah. It's like kavanah not to be. You're not even positioning the... You just want to make sure it fits. If you anyway, but number one, it says ushartam la'ois al yadecha. So I would have said v'hayu l'toitafos beineinecha means it should be beineinecha, but not that you tie it beineinecha. The Mishna Berura is saying no. The kshartam is going on the tefillin sharash as well. Did you know that? There's a mitzvah of kishira. There's a mitzvah of kishira when it comes to the sharash. So how are you tying when it comes to the sharash? The hiduk is the kishira. So if it's too loose, it's not kishira. Shenis, demheim rafuyim savav hekafroishay yipag tzitzel fanav al mitzchay. If it's too loose, the tefillin sharash will fall too low. O yipal hakesher la'achrav lamata b'tzavaray, or the kesher behind you will go below your neck. So you want to make sure it's fit tightly. Now, the Mechaber said you want to make sure that the knot is in the middle. What does that mean? In the middle of the width. Roy chavarosh. V'loyata oisam l'tzadachad. Should not tilt to one side. Kadesh yiskayim. In order that you could fulfill v'hayula toita afos b'neinecha. V'harbe mei achreinim kasu many achreinim. Right? Dimshino bazeh. If you do deviate, like kia mitzvahs tefillin, b'tzarchiz bazeh. You will not be fulfilling the mitzvah and you have to be very careful. Gam nachin l'zal chilil shaliyat tefillin gedolim b'yoser. Again, Mendy, another warning here. You don't want the tefillin should be too big. The aziyaf should come out. Stam, if they're too big, it's not going to be tight on the head. They're also not going to be in the right place. If they're perched on the top of the head properly, they are not fastened. If they're too big, the knot won't be in the right place. So basically, you don't want to have oversized tefillin. When it comes to big, a big sukkah is okay. A big shofar is okay. Big tzitzis, not a problem. As long as there could be a problem. A lot of people have long strings. It's very nice to have long strings. Case in point, this is sitting on my desk because there's a shortage of tzitzis in America. You know about this? There's a shortage of wool tzitzis in America. Why? Obviously because of COVID. Because of COVID, explain that one to me, I don't get it, but because of COVID there's a shortage of tzitzis in America, so I had to get a bigger size, because it was either cotton or wool, so I had to get a size that's too big, and yesterday I was walking and got caught in my door, so, I mean, they're still kosher, because there's only one string, and it was only one of the 8, and I still have Kedei Aniva, but I'm just letting you know, but you're allowed to have big tzitzis, but you cannot have big tefillin, not a good idea to have big tefillin. Okay, now this is a very big subject. The dalid, the knot. What does your knot look like? Let's take a little poll. Who has a dalid? Who has a mem? Anybody has the courage to say what they have? Rabbi Yeager has 4 pairs of tefillin. No, dalid. Dalid. Who has a mem? Mendy, Usher, Elliot. Okay, I have a dalid. But it's not pashut. It's mamish not pashut what you should do. The Mishna Berura says, Shneur kein dal kishtei rutzuos yoitzos mitoich hakesher lamata. You have 2 rutzuos coming out of the knot. Oisa hayoitzos mitzad small hameniach nimsheches l'rachvai k'may gag hadalad. The one that comes out of the left side, one who puts it, it has it drawn in its width like the roof of a dalad. V'oisa yoitzos tzad yamin, the one that comes on the right side, nimsheches ba'orach, comes out of the length, lamata k'may regel hadalad. So it looks like a dalad. You want to make sure you don't have the knot turned around. Regarding this knot. So there the Dirshu brings, that there the Mishna Berura and Sivkat and Reish Lamed Gimel brings, some make it like an endemem. The Tiferes Aryeh is masking with the Tshuva Me'ava that the Kesher of the Dalet is more correct Ladina. We're going to get to it soon. But it's not Pashat. It's Mamish, not Pasha, whether you should have a Mem or a Dalet. Let me just look quickly again. It's in Sivkat and Reish Lamed Gimel. He says, Yesh Sha'ois and Kesher Kamem Stuma. Yosel Adina. 259. Over there, the Dersha brings that the Tiferes Aryeh, who the Mishna Berura quotes, that says that a Dalet is better, if you look him up, he seems to say that the Mem Stuma is better. So even though the Mishna Berura says it's better to have a Dalet, but the source that he quotes, who says it's better to have a Dalet, he says it's better not to have a Dalet. So there's a whole shaila how you read this Tiferes Aryeh, and we're going to leave it at that. Don't change your tefillin, but it's very not pashat what the correct kesher should be. And with this, we're going to hold it here at Sif Yod Aleph. Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we have a little bit of a bigger day, but we'll do Sif Yod Aleph and the end of Siman Chav Zayin Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Okay? Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.